Life is full of turning points. We face crossroads where one decision, one value, one perspective can completely redirect our journey. People spend their entire lives chasing success, security, or recognition, believing these are the things that will change everything. But the truth is, none of these actually transform life at its core. The one thing that changes everything in life is trust, specifically where you place your trust. When you put your trust in temporary things, life feels unstable. Trust in money and you'll never feel like you have enough. Trust in people, and eventually you'll face disappointment because people are human. Trust in your own abilities, and one setback can shake your confidence. But when your trust is anchored in something greater than yourself, something eternal, something unshakable, suddenly everything in life looks different. Trust shapes your perspective. It's like the lens through which you see the world. If your trust is rooted in fear, you'll see obstacles everywhere. If your trust is rooted in circumstances, your emotions will rise and fall with every change. But if your trust is grounded in something deeper, you begin to see opportunities instead of obstacles, hope instead of despair, and purpose instead of confusion. This one thing doesn't just change your perspective, it changes your relationships. When trust defines your life, you stop trying to control everyone around you. You can love freely, forgive more quickly, and give more generously. You realize you don't have to manipulate people or force outcome because your life isn't built on them. And that freedom makes relationships richer, healthier, and more enduring. Trust also changes how you face pain. No one gets through life without hardship. The difference between those who collapse under it and those who grow through it often comes down to trust. When storms hit, trust becomes your anchor. It doesn't make the pain disappear, but it gives you stability in the middle of it. Instead of asking, well, why me? You start to ask, what can I learn? Oh, how can I grow? Who can I help because of this? Pain no longer becomes the end of your story. It becomes part of the process that shapes you. And finally, trust changes how you live day to day. Life becomes less about surviving and more about serving. You stop asking, what's in it for me? And start asking, what can I give? You stop obsessing about the future and start making the most of today. You begin to live with peace because you're no longer carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. Oh, so many people are searching for a secret to a better life, a formula that guarantees success, a philosophy that brings meaning. But it's not a complicated formula. It's one simple shift where you place your trust. That one thing truly changes everything. Trust is the invisible lens through which we interpret life. Every thought, every emotion, every reaction is filtered through what we believe and where we place our confidence. If you think about it, two people can walk through the same circumstance and come out with completely different responses. Not because the situation itself was different, but because of what they trusted in. One looks at the problem and feels hopeless. The other looks at the same problem and finds courage. The difference is not the size of the obstacle, but the depth of their trust. That is why trust shapes perspective more than anything else. It has the power to transform how you see yourself, how you see others, and how you see the world around you. When trust is rooted in fear, everything looks like a threat. You see closed doors instead of open ones, enemies instead of friends, setbacks instead of opportunities. Fear distorts your perspective and makes you believe life is harsher than it really is. But when trust is grounded in hope, even challenges look different. You begin to see them not as barriers, but as stepping stones. The same situation that once felt impossible becomes a classroom where you learn resilience and strength. Perspective shifts not because the world has changed, but because the foundation of your trust has changed. Think about the way trust influences how we see ourselves. If you only trust your abilities, you will always live under the weight of performance. The moment you succeed, you feel valuable, but the moment you fail, you feel worthless. Life becomes a roller coaster, rising and falling with your performance. But when trust is anchored in something unchanging, your worth no longer depends on success or failure. You see yourself differently. You can admit weaknesses without shame because they do not define you. You can celebrate victories without pride because they are not the source of your identity. Trust reshapes your perspective on who you are at the deepest level. Trust also changes how you see other people. If your trust is misplaced in them, you may expect too much and end up bitter when they let you down. You may put them on pedestals they cannot live up to, or depend on them for a stability they cannot provide. But when trust is properly placed, you stop demanding perfection from others. You begin to see them with compassion instead of disappointment, with grace instead of criticism. Relationships become lighter, freer, and healthier because you no longer carry the burden of expecting people to fill needs they were never designed to fill. Even your view of the future is shaped by trust. If you only trust what you can control, then the unknown will terrify you. Every change will feel like a threat. Every risk will seem unbearable. But when your trust is bigger than your circumstances, the future doesn't have to scare you. You can walk into uncertainty with peace because your confidence is not in the outcome, but in the one guiding you through it. Suddenly, the future becomes less about fear and more about possibility. Trust opens your eyes to opportunities you might have overlooked because you are no longer blinded by worry. Trust shapes perspective in subtle ways, too. It influences how you interpret delays, how you handle waiting, how you deal with silence. A person whose trust is fragile will see delays as rejection, while someone whose trust is strong will see them as redirection. The same event can be frustrating or freeing depending on the trust that frames it. Trust can even turn waiting into growth because it teaches you patience and builds endurance. Without trust, perspective shrinks and life feels heavy. With trust, perspective expands and life feels purposeful. In moments of crisis, trust becomes the deciding factor in how you interpret reality. When trouble comes, it either magnifies fear or magnifies faith. Trust is what decides which one grows stronger. If you trust in circumstances, you will feel crushed when they fall apart. If you trust in something greater, you can stand firm even when the ground feels shaky. That is why trust is not just an abstract idea. It is the very thing that determines whether you live in despair or in hope. Perspective is never neutral. It is always colored by what you choose to trust. The truth is, everyone lives with trust. The question is never whether you trust, but where you place it. Some trust in wealth, others in relationships, others in their own strength. But every one of those things can change, and when they do, perspective crumbles. The key is to place trust in what is stable, unchanging, and greater than yourself. When you do, life looks different. Problems do not disappear, but they lose their power to define you. People do not always meet your expectations, but you find yourself able to forgive. The future does not become certain, but it becomes less frightening. Trust doesn't change the circumstances, it changes the way you see them. And that shift in vision changes the way you live every single day. Trust is the foundation of every meaningful relationship. Without it, connection becomes fragile, communication breaks down, and intimacy is impossible. Trust is what allows us to open our hearts, to share our deepest thoughts and feelings, and to let others in without fear of judgment or betrayal. When trust is missing, relationships are built on suspicion, doubt, and control, and even small disagreements can escalate into major conflicts. But when trust is present, relationships flourish, becoming a source of strength, comfort, and joy. Trust changes the way we interact with others on a daily basis. When we trust, we stop feeling the need to manipulate situations or control outcomes. We no longer demand perfection from the people around us because we understand that everyone is human and fallible. We stop holding grudges and start practicing forgiveness, realizing that mistakes are a part of growth and learning. Trust allows us to approach relationships with grace, patience, and understanding rather than suspicion or fear. It transforms the way we communicate, turning criticism into constructive dialogue and conflict into an opportunity for deeper understanding. In friendships, trust is what allows true connection to form. Without it, friendships remain surface level, limited to casual interactions and small talk. But when trust exists, people can share their fears, their dreams, and their struggles, knowing that they will be accepted and supported. Trust creates a safe space where authenticity thrives. It enables friends to be vulnerable without fear, to encourage without judgment, and to celebrate successes without envy. In this way, trust not only strengthens the bond between people, but also deepens the emotional and spiritual growth of each individual. Trust also plays a crucial role in family relationships. Families are often the first place where we learn about trust, and they are also the places where it is most tested. Misunderstandings, disagreements, and unmet expectations can erode trust over time, leading to resentment and division. But when family members choose to trust one another, relationships are strengthened, and unity becomes possible even in the face of conflict. Trust allows parents to guide their children with love rather than fear, and it allows children to grow with a sense of security and confidence. It encourages open communication, mutual respect, and a willingness to work through challenges together. In romantic relationships, trust is the cornerstone of intimacy. Love without trust is fragile and uncertain, constantly threatened by jealousy, doubt, and insecurity. But when trust is firmly established, partners can build a relationship that is resilient and enduring. Trust allows couples to rely on each other, to share their innermost thoughts and emotions, and to support each other through life's ups and downs. It turns love into a partnership where each person feels valued, respected, and safe. Without trust, even the strongest feelings can crumble under pressure, but with trust, love grows deeper, stronger, and more meaningful. Trust also affects how we view the intentions of others. When trust is present, we give people the benefit of the doubt. We assume positive intentions rather than expecting the worst. This mindset changes interactions in profound ways. Instead of reacting defensively or with suspicion, we respond with openness and kindness. Trust transforms relationships from a battlefield into a place of collaboration and mutual respect. It reduces conflict and fosters cooperation, making it easier to work together toward shared goals and to navigate disagreements with maturity and understanding. Building trust is not instantaneous. It requires consistency, honesty, and integrity. People trust those who are reliable, who keep their promises, and who act with transparency. Trust grows when actions match words, when intentions are pure, and when others feel seen, heard, and valued. Every act of honesty, every demonstration of loyalty, and every moment of empathy strengthens trust. Conversely, betrayal, dishonesty, or selfishness can destroy trust quickly, often more rapidly than it is built. This is why maintaining trust requires continual effort, vigilance, and humility. Trust in relationships also requires vulnerability. To trust someone means to open yourself up to the possibility of being hurt, disappointed, or misunderstood. Yet it is this very vulnerability that allows connection to deepen. When we allow ourselves to be known, we create the opportunity for authentic love, friendship, and partnership. Trust invites people into our lives in a way that transforms superficial interactions into meaningful bonds. It is the bridge that connects hearts, minds, and souls, allowing relationships to move beyond routine and obligation into a space of genuine care and mutual growth. And furthermore, trust encourages forgiveness and reconciliation. When trust exists, people are more willing to forgive mistakes and offer second chances because they believe in the good intentions of others. This ability to forgive does not mean ignoring wrongdoing, but it does mean approaching it with a perspective of restoration rather than retaliation. Trust teaches us to see others as more than their worst actions, allowing relationships to heal and grow stronger over time. Ultimately, trust transforms the way we experience relationships. It shifts our focus from control to connection, from fear to faith, and from judgment to understanding. It creates a sense of safety, security, and freedom that allows people to grow together, support one another, and navigate life's challenges side by side. Trust does not guarantee perfection, but it guarantees a foundation strong enough to endure challenges, deepen intimacy, and cultivate lasting bonds. Changes the way we love, the way we communicate, and the way we see those around us, making every relationship a source of joy, growth, and meaning. Trust is what anchors us in the storms of life. Without it, challenges feel overwhelming, pain feels unbearable, and uncertainty feels paralyzing. Life is full of hardships, and every person will face moments when the ground beneath them seems to shift. It could be a loss, a betrayal, a failure, or a sudden change that upends everything you thought was secure. In these moments, trust becomes the lifeline that keeps you steady. It determines whether you sink under pressure or rise with resilience. The difference between despair and hope often comes down to this one thing: trust in something greater than yourself. When life is smooth, it is easy to rely on ourselves, our abilities, or our circumstances. But when difficulty comes, these things are often stripped away. Abilities may fail, plans may collapse, and circumstances may turn against us. Trust is what allows us to continue when everything familiar has disappeared. It is the quiet assurance that even in the midst of chaos, we are not alone and we are not without purpose. Trust provides stability that is not dependent on outcomes, allowing us to face pain with courage rather than fear. Pain and hardship can take many forms. It might be physical, emotional, financial, or relational. It can come suddenly like a storm, gradually like erosion over time. Without trust, each form of pain threatens to define us, to determine our worth, and to dictate our response. But with trust, pain becomes something else entirely. It becomes a teacher, a refining process, and an opportunity for growth. Trust allows us to step back and see hardship not as the end of our story, but as part of a larger journey that shapes our character, our values, and our perspective on life. Trust also changes the way we respond emotionally to hardship. People who lack trust often react with fear, anger, or bitterness. Their hearts tighten, their minds focus on worst-case scenarios, and their hope diminishes. But those who trust are able to respond differently. They do not ignore pain or pretend it doesn't exist, but they approach it with faith that there is meaning beyond the immediate struggle. Trust opens the door for resilience, allowing us to endure difficulties without being consumed by them. It teaches patience, helping us to wait for resolution without giving in to despair. In addition, trust reshapes our understanding of control. Life often tempts us to believe that we can control outcomes if we try hard enough, but hardship reveals the limits of control. Trust shifts the focus from trying to manipulate circumstances to resting in the assurance that there is a greater plan at work. This shift does not remove responsibility, but it reduces the anxiety that comes from trying to force what we cannot. Trust teaches us to act wisely within our sphere of influence while letting go of what is beyond our power, allowing us to navigate life with a sense of calm and confidence, even amid uncertainty. Trust also impacts how we learn from hardship. Challenges can be discouraging, but they are also instructive. They reveal strengths we didn't know we had and weaknesses we need to address. They force us to develop skills, adopt new perspectives, and deepen our understanding of ourselves and others. When trust is present, pain and struggle are no longer meaningless. Each difficulty becomes a lesson, a tool for personal growth, and a stepping stone toward a stronger, wiser, and more resilient self. The experience of overcoming challenges builds character in a way that comfort and ease never can. Another aspect of trust in hardship is its ability to provide perspective. Pain can feel overwhelming when we are focused only on the immediate moment. It can dominate our thoughts, cloud our judgment, and amplify fear. Trust allows us to see beyond the present moment, to recognize that this pain is temporary and part of a larger story. It helps us see possibilities even when circumstances seem bleak, and encourages hope when despair threatens to take over. Trust transforms how we interpret suffering, giving it meaning and direction instead of allowing it to define our identity. Trust also enables us to maintain relationships during hard times. Pain often strains connections because it triggers fear, anger, or withdrawal. Without trust, we may isolate ourselves, push others away, or lash out. But when trust is present, it acts as a stabilizing force in relationships. We are able to communicate honestly, support one another, and navigate challenges together. Trust allows us to believe in the goodness and intentions of others, even when emotions are raw, preserving bonds that might otherwise fracture under pressure. Furthermore, trust provides peace amid uncertainty. One of the hardest aspects of hardship is the unknown. We cannot always predict outcomes, prevent setbacks, or control every factor in our lives. This uncertainty can paralyze us, but trust provides a sense of security that transcends circumstances. It is the inner calm that says, even if I do not understand everything now, there is a path forward, and I am not alone. This peace is not passive. It is active, guiding us to move forward with courage, wisdom, and hope despite uncertainty. Ultimately, trust is what allows us to endure, grow, and thrive through hardship. It turns pain into a teacher, difficulty into an opportunity, and uncertainty into a space for faith. It strengthens our character, deepens our relationships, and transforms our perspective. Life will inevitably bring challenges, but trust equips us to face them with resilience, courage, and hope, giving meaning to every struggle and opening the door to a stronger, more confident, and purposeful life. Trust changes the way we live every single day. It transforms ordinary routines into purposeful actions and turns moments of uncertainty into opportunities for growth. When trust is present, life is no longer dictated by fear, doubt, or the pressure to control outcomes. Instead, every decision, every interaction, and every choice is filtered through a lens of confidence and peace. Shifts our focus from merely surviving day to day to truly living with intention and meaning. Trust has the power to redefine how we approach our work, our relationships, our goals, and even our personal growth. Daily life is filled with countless decisions, both big and small. Without trust, these decisions can feel overwhelming. We may hesitate, second-guess ourselves, or make choices based on fear rather than wisdom. We become consumed by the what-if and allow anxiety to dictate our actions. But when trust guides our choices, we move with clarity and confidence. We act from a place of assurance rather than uncertainty, knowing that we are supported and that our efforts have value. Trust removes the paralyzing weight of doubt, replacing it with courage and decisiveness. And it allows us to live each day with a sense of purpose rather than chaos. Trust also transforms how we view our work and responsibilities. When we trust in something greater than ourselves, we stop living solely for recognition, reward, or approval. Instead, we approach our tasks with a mindset of service and excellence. We do what is right and necessary, not just what is convenient or beneficial to us. This shift changes how we engage with our daily duties. Work becomes more than a chore. It becomes a platform for contribution, influence, and impact. Trust frees us from the constant pressure of trying to control outcomes, allowing us to focus on doing our best in the present moment while leaving results in the hands of a higher plan. Trust also affects our relationships on a daily level. When we trust, we approach interactions with openness, patience, and understanding. We listen more than we speak, we empathize more than we judge, and we give more than we expect. Trust allows us to show kindness without hesitation, to forgive without resentment, and to build connections that are authentic and enduring. It changes the way we respond to conflict, disappointment, or misunderstanding. Instead of reacting impulsively or defensively, we approach situations with calm and perspective, fostering healthier and more meaningful relationships. Trust influences how we handle challenges and setbacks in everyday life. Every day brings unexpected difficulties, whether small annoyances or significant obstacles. Without trust, these challenges can drain our energy, frustrate our progress, and dampen our spirits. But with trust, challenges become opportunities for learning, growth, and resilience. We begin to see difficulties as stepping stones rather than roadblocks, as lessons to be learned rather than punishments to endure. Trust gives us the confidence to face problems head on, knowing that each challenge can strengthen our character and prepare us for greater responsibilities in the future. Our emotions are also shaped by trust in our daily lives. Trust provides stability and balance in the face of stress, disappointment, or uncertainty. It reduces anxiety because we are no longer consumed by the need to control every outcome. It diminishes fear because we know that we are not navigating life alone. It nurtures hope, allowing us to focus on possibilities rather than limitation. When trust governs our emotions, we are less reactive, more patient, and more resilient. We are able to experience life fully without being overwhelmed by the fluctuations of circumstances or the unpredictability of other people's actions. Trust also changes how we set goals and pursue personal growth. When we trust ourselves and the process of life, we are more willing to take risks, step out of comfort zones, and pursue meaningful ambitions. We stop being paralyzed by fear of failure or fear of judgment. Instead, we focus on progress rather than perfection, on effort rather than outcome, and on growth rather than comparison. Trust empowers us to pursue what matters most with courage and determination, transforming daily routines and deliberate steps toward long-term fulfillment and purpose. Even the way we view time and priorities is influenced by trust. Life is finite, and without trust, we may squander time on worry, doubt, or trivial pursuits. Trust allows us to recognize what is truly important and allocate our energy wisely. We begin to focus on building relationships, developing skills, serving others, and nurturing our own growth. It gives us a sense of clarity in prioritizing, helping us to live intentionally rather than reactively. Each day becomes an opportunity to make choices that align with our values and purpose, rather than simply responding to circumstances or external pressures. Trust also transforms our sense of peace and contentment. When we trust, we are less preoccupied with what we cannot control, less burdened by fear, and less consumed by comparison or envy. We are able to find satisfaction in what we have, joy in the present moment, and hope for the future. This peace is not dependent on circumstances. It is a product of an inner assurance that life has direction and that we are guided through every moment. Trust allows us to live with gratitude, confidence, and a sense of fulfillment, even amid challenges or uncertainty. Ultimately, trust redefines daily living by changing our perspective, our decisions, our emotions, and our priorities. It transforms ordinary routines into meaningful actions, challenges into opportunities, and relationships into sources of joy and growth. Trust shapes how we approach every moment, influencing how we work, how we relate, how we grow, and how we navigate life's unpredictability. It empowers us to live fully, intentionally, and courageously, turning each day into a chance to make a difference, to experience peace, and to embrace life with purpose and clarity. Trust determines the trajectory of our future. It is the compass that guides our decisions, the foundation upon which we build our dreams, and the anchor that keeps us steady when uncertainty threatens to overwhelm us. Where we place our trust shapes the opportunities we pursue, the risks we take, and the legacy we leave behind. Trust is not just about enduring the present, it is about believing in what is possible and stepping boldly into what lies ahead. Without trust, we drift aimlessly, uncertain of direction, and easily swayed by fear or doubt. With trust, we chart a course with clarity, courage, and purpose, confident that even setbacks are part of a larger plan that leads to growth and fulfillment. When we trust in something greater than ourselves, our future is no longer dictated solely by circumstance or chance. Life is unpredictable, and no matter how much we plan or prepare, we cannot control every outcome. Trust shifts our focus from trying to manipulate every detail to embracing a perspective that sees beyond the immediate moment. This does not mean we are passive or careless. Rather, trust allows us to take deliberate, intentional steps while leaving results in the hands of something greater. It liberates us from the paralyzing grip of fear and doubt, empowering us to pursue opportunities we might otherwise avoid. Trust also shapes our vision for the future. People who lack trust often live reactively, responding to crises, fears, or external pressures, instead of proactively creating the life they desire. They may hesitate to dream big, fearing failure or disappointment, and they may settle for less than their potential. But trust opens the door to possibility. It allows us to imagine a future beyond our current circumstances, to set goals that stretch us, and to take bold steps toward them with confidence. Trust fuels ambition, courage, and perseverance, helping us to see what others might dismiss is impossible. The choices we make today are deeply influenced by where we place our trust. If we trust fleeting things through money, approval, or circumstance, our decisions may prioritize temporary gain over lasting impact. But if we trust in principles that endure, values that guide our character, and a purpose greater than ourselves, our decisions begin to align with long-term growth, fulfillment, and legacy. Trust directs us to invest our time, energy, and resources wisely, to cultivate relationships that matter, and to pursue endeavors that leave a lasting mark. It shapes the trajectory of our life far more than luck, talent, or circumstance ever could. Trust also affects how we respond to setbacks on the path to the future. Every journey encounters obstacles, failures, and disappointments. Without trust, these setbacks can derail progress, shake confidence, and lead to despair. With trust, setbacks become lessons rather than defeats. They reveal strengths we didn't know we had, clarify priorities, and refine our approach. Trust enables resilience, the ability to recover and continue moving forward with determination and hope. It transforms obstacles into stepping stones and challenges into catalysts for growth, ensuring that temporary setbacks never become permanent barriers. Furthermore, trust influences the risks we are willing to take. Life rarely rewards caution alone. Growth, achievement, and fulfillment require stepping into the unknown, making choices that carry uncertainty, and pursuing opportunities that challenge comfort zones. Without trust, fear dominates and risk becomes paralyzing. But when trust is present, fear is tempered by confidence. We can take calculated risks, knowing that our worth and purpose are not dependent on immediate success or approval. Trust allows us to act courageously, to explore new possibilities, and to embrace change as an essential part of progress. Trust also shapes the legacy we leave behind.